Major funding for this program was made possible by UPMC. Thank you.
Be tighter on this. That was pretty wide.
Yeah.
It was covered.
Coach, you want you to do one more time?
Yeah.
That was pretty wide.
Today I get to talk to Antoine Fuqua, a video director for music, filmmaker, grew up in Homewood, born in the Hill District, from Pittsburgh. And I look at this picture and I see, to me, the similarities, because you talk about creating a championship team and award-winning movies. He did. It's about all the people involved, all the things you have to bring together, the things you have to blend, the things you have to build, but also be able to step away and embrace the process, allowing people to be themselves, to bring out the very best of who they are. I was a director. He was a director. And for Antoine Fuqua, it started in the Hill District. For Bill Cowher, it started in Crafton. We all came from that same place. We all drank that same water. We're all on the banks of a confluence of three rivers. I can't wait to talk to this man today. I'm with Antoine Fuqua, and before we start talking about his amazing journey and how I think there's a lot of similarities that we both have shared in terms of leadership and the paths we took, we're gonna find out kind of real yinzer you are. So here we go, ready? Favorite Pittsburgh food?
Oh man, pierogies is good, you know? I mean, that's great, right? I mean, what's the Patero brothers?
Right? No, yeah, it was the Permani brothers.
The Pendamary brothers, but you know, now I can't eat that anymore now.
You know, that food. How about Isley's chipped ham?
Yeah, I've had it. I've had it. Now, hold on. I got a friend whose mom used to make Italian sausages.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And even to this day, right, her name is Kim. She owns a place here called Carmine's. That's where I go get my Pittsburgh. Her mom used to ship it out, right? Fresh Italian sausage. It's her own recipe. That's some of my favorite foods. My mother used to make the best pork chops, though.
Who does?
My mom and my grandma. So for me,
a pork chop.
That's Pittsburgh. Pork chops, man.
Pork chop, man. I got
pork chops and some potatoes, home fries. Come on, Coach.
Hey, I'm coming to your house next time for Thanksgiving, though. Okay, here. Favorite Pittsburgh venue?
Oh, well, it used to be Three Rivers, but now it's, you know, it's what's it called now?
Acrosure.
I still call it Three Rivers.
How about Kennywood?
Yeah, Kennywood, of course.
How about this? How about the Civic Arena?
Love Civic Arena. I used to look down on it from the Hill District where I lived, where I grew up.
Do you know that the Civic Arena, I used to sneak in there to watch Duquesne basketball on Sunday afternoons.
Oh, is that right?
I used to go there, and my friends and I would take the bus down from Crafton, and we would go to different gates, and we'd run in, we'd say, "Mom, you forgot us." And they would chase us, and we'd all try to get in. But if you got caught, you got kicked out. So most of the time we made it, but every now and then we'd lose a guy along the way.
Man down, man down.
All right, here we go. First word or phrase that comes to mind when you think Pittsburgh.
Yins.
Yins, yeah, Yins.
Yes.
How about Jagoff?
Jagoff, yeah, my coach used to always say that. Don't be a Jagoff.
Yeah.
And it's the way it's said, though. It's the way you say it.
Yeah, hey, so let's talk about you, Antoine. Like you you were born in the Hill District, grew up in Homewood. You know, your dad worked at H.J. Heinz. Your mom was a worker. Tell me about growing up there in that time.
Yeah, you know what? It was tough, obviously. It was a tough time. You know, Pittsburgh's a tough place.
Yeah.
But it was beautiful. You know, my memories of Pittsburgh are beautiful, beautiful people. You know, they even to this day, they don't care who you are, what you have, right? It was just about who you were as a person, what you stood for. I was born in the Hill District, and then I moved from the Hill District to Homewood.
Right.
And, you know, for me, it was like, you know, didn't have much, right? It was. I remember my grandmother's screen door had holes in it, you know, and that screen door would open and close and bang around, you know, and I would run in and out of the house. But in my memory, I wouldn't pass it up for anything, man.
Yeah.
It was the most beautiful thing, you know. And my friends, my core group of friends, I mean, we played football together, we played basketball at the YMCA together, and, you know, boys clubs. We played baseball in the A&P parking lots, you know, on the concrete.
Yeah.
You know, we watch NFL football on Sunday, get inspired and go out there and knock each other's teeth out, you know. Like, it was beautiful, man.
Hey, so let me ask you this, because there's like, I read about Antoine Fuqua, but then he's got a couple cousins. Did you know Frenchie? And,
Oh, yeah.
And so
yeah.
let me ask you about Frenchie. Did you ever have any inclination to wearing the platform shoes that had the fish in them?
The goldfish and the shit?
Yeah.
Nah, Bill, nah. Hey, Coach, that's not me. But hey, I heard that was a bet. I heard they had a bet. Is that true?
Is that no? But no, he actually had the goldfish. They actually
In
had
the
different.
shoe.
He had different. It was actually different colored fish depending upon the suit that he was wearing. Because, you know, he was a fashion statement now, right?
Yeah, I know. And he had the cape, the hat.
Yeah.
You know.
And did you know that on Immaculate Reception, that Franco Harris caught,
Right.
Terry Bradshaw was throwing that ball to Frenchie Fuqua.
I know, and Jack Tatum just stuck him so hard, man. I felt that hit. It was like, oh my God. But you know, to this day, I said, now, did it hit you or not? You could tell me? He goes, I'll never tell.
Him and Franco never told. They won't tell the story.
They won't tell the story. They won't tell me. I say, I'm family. You can't tell me.
You're family, man.
Yeah, he won't tell me, Coach.
So tell me about Harvey, the music industry.
Harvey. Yeah, man, Harvey Fuqua, yep. The Moon Glows, the Blow Harmony out of Detroit.
Yeah.
Harvey was special, man. You know, through Motown, he discovered Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, there's a great story with Marvin Gaye with Harvey. Harvey had the Moon Glows and they were doing these sets, you know, at the, different venues. And this kid used to always come and say, Mr. Fuqua, you know, let me perform. And it's like, who is this guy? Everywhere they go, he would follow him. So one day he said, I'm gonna teach him a lesson. So he told his band, he said, you know what? Let's let him go out there and do it. And he went out there one day and that was the end of the Moon Glows.
Wow.
The Moon Glows was over. And then he took Marvin to Berry Gordy.
Wow.
And that was it. Yeah, and then he wound up marrying Barry's sister, Gwen, and Marvin married the other sister. Whoa. So we all family.
Age 15, you're a bystander, you get shot on your way trying to go to the store with your mom, and how that kind of just changed a little bit of your perception of life and your way of life.
Well, you know what, Bill? That's a good story because what happened was my mom sent me to the store to get some macaroni and cheese. Yeah. It was pouring down raining, man. It was my buddy Clifford that I was with, Clifford Green, I'll never forget it. And I was talking back. I was like, I don't want to go to the store, Mom. It's raining outside. And my grandmother said, you know, God doesn't like ugly. Don't talk back. Just put your coat on and go to the store. Put my little plastic, it was a pleather coat, my little hat, ran out the store. We ran through an alleyway and a guy was being robbed at a place called Pampiner's. It was a mechanic shop. And he was just lighting up the alleyway. And the bullets were hitting the telephone poles, man. And something inside me just said, run. And I just started weaving in and out of the poles, you know, and ducking. And I get into the store, and my buddy Clifford looked at me like he saw a ghost, and he just started backing away. And I said, what's wrong? And then the security guard came over and said, sit down, son. I said, I didn't steal anything. You know, my first instinct was like, I thought I was in trouble for something. And then he goes, no, you're bleeding.
Wow.
And that was sort of like, but the thing about that moment that I tell that story is because, Bill, I didn't think about me.
Right.
I thought about my mom, my grandmother, my cousins, people that loved me.
Yeah.
It wasn't about me. And that was enlightening for me because I realized life is not about me. It's not about you. It's about the people around you, the people that love you, right? That care for you. And when you put yourself in situations that aren't good for you, you're hurting them.
Yeah.
It's not just about you. So that moment was big for me.
Yeah, and I you know what, Antoine, I see that. It's just on this, I'm gonna get down this, but I'm gonna pivot from this position and just talk about your leadership. That's what leaders do. You know, I sit there and talk about bringing people together, letting people do their thing. You know, I sit there, I pulled this out and I wanted to show this to you because I said, it just reminds me of like your work with Denzel.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Denzel to me was like this guy, Troy Polamalu.
Troy Polamalu, yeah.
Because you know what? You let Denzel at times when you sat there and what he did, and he was Alonzo in Training Day, he was Robert McCall in Equalizer, And
Yeah.
I just feel like you brought him to a point and put him in a position that you're him and you be you, right?
Yes, sir.
And he took it to
That's
another
it.
thing. So you brought together, and I said, this talks about, it's like a great picture, right?
Yes.
That's you and me up here. Headset
that's right.
on, but we're letting everybody do their thing. Whether it's Jerome
right.
carrying people, this guy doing what he probably shouldn't be doing, but it works.
Right. But it works. That's
This
right.
guy's a character. They all have roles, right? You have your
right.
your actors, you have your directors, the crew that's on
crew.
that thing. I had coaches, I had players, and you sit there as a leader at scale because you still go back to the same thing. And you just said it, and that's what made me pivot to this. It's not about you. It's about what can we do to paint something. You blend it together, you build it, and then you embrace the process and let it become what it's going to become. Is that
Yes,
not
sir.
movie? Is
That's
that
it,
you
Coach.
as a movie director?
That's exactly it, Coach. And I learned that from playing sports, brick by brick, right? Each individual has special skills, and you have to gain trust, and
Right.
enough trust to allow them, to give them the space to do
Right.
what they do, and then also have an eye to be able to go in and correct when you see something, or at least, give them some direction to bring them back to the North Star, wherever that is.
Right.
But also your crew, bringing the best out of each person and inspiring them every day, no matter how you feel about something, bringing them back to that place. This is the North Star. We won a championship. We won an Academy Award. We want the audience to enjoy this. So you have to remove yourself, right, and your personal feelings and just make it about the thing that you're working on.
But you go to school, you go to West Virginia State, you go to West Virginia, and I just think this is really cool. Like you sit there and you're playing basketball, but a professor at West Virginia tells you to take an art class.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me
Yeah.
about that. And then this guy Caravaggio, an Italian painter, and tell me if this is my take from you is like, you saw, okay, a painter, he's not an elitist. He had issues growing up too.
Yeah.
I can do this, right? I can.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%, Coach. That's exactly what it was. I mean, this professor, I was, creating a schematic diagram in an engineering class, and he just kind of peeked over the shoulder and gave me some advice about something. And for whatever reason, it's like divine order. He said, you should take some art classes or something like that. You know what I mean? You got an eye. Now, I didn't really know what that meant. And I needed to take a class to keep the grades up, to keep playing ball, right? To keep scholarship. So I remember that summer taking a Baroque art class. I don't know what I'm doing. Growing up in the streets of Pittsburgh, like being an artist is not something you kind of think about doing, right? That's just not the thing, right? You play sports, So then I take this class and I see these different painters and things. And then we had a day we were discussing Caravaggio, the Renaissance period. And I started paying attention to him because he was a troubled artist. Right. He was on the streets. He hung out what we call the bars, or the pubs, some people say, right? And then he hung out with street people. And he reminded me of people I knew. Just, really talented, but always in trouble.
Yeah.
Rebels, And it reminded me a little bit of myself in some areas.
Yeah.
And I just thought, oh, well, his paintings are worth $100 million, but that wasn't who the man was.
Yeah, right.
And I thought, this is something that I can dive into. But it was because of him, and it was because of Coruscaro.
Like, I look at, I'll just say Train Day and Equalizer, because I look at Denzel, and I just thought what you did with those two movies, really just, I don't know, to me, it's about morality, the gray line between right and wrong, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's just like, and sometimes it's like, if you're living within it, you're trying to bring right when something's wrong. It may be viewed as being wrong, but in the time it's right. I mean,
at the time it's right. That's right. But here's the interesting thing, Coach, is that, and you're right on the money, was my mother and my grandmother used to always talk about when you go out into these streets, like the decisions you make, right, can be devastating. And when I got older, I realized, how do you get home with your morals intact? Every time you walk out in the streets, every time you haven't, even when you have ambition, how do you keep your morals intact? Because people can give you what you want, but at what cost?
Right.
Right? You start selling your soul. And part of me being from Pittsburgh, the thing that I remember the most was people kept you humble. They keep you humble, right? You keep your morals intact, no matter what. You stay strong. And when I got training day, me and Denzel talked a lot about that. But if you remember the beginning, Ethan Hawke says, he wakes up and he says to his wife, you know, you should see those guys' houses, you know, the detectives' houses. Maybe I'll get one day. And, you know, I grew up I believe in God. And the idea was that the devil hears that. He hears ambition. And then his phone rings. Yeah. And it's Alonzo. And Alonzo's on the phone basically to say, I'm going to give you everything you want, but you got to do it my way.
Right.
And so the question was always, can Ethan's character, Jake, get home with his morals intact?
Yeah.
Right? That was the whole thing. And so me and Denzel wrote at the top of the script, the wages of sin is death.
Antoine, it makes you think about your own morals. It
Yes,
makes
sir.
you think about what's important. What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to stand by and maybe give up? And, you know, sometimes I sit there and said, you know, you control your choice, but once you make the choice, it controls you. So
Yes,
thinking
sir.
about the consequences that you have in doing things like that is I've always remembered those type of things. Like, hey, I go back to Pittsburgh, you talk about the territorial parts, bounded together by bridges, okay? But every one of there was a pride that you had that came from Homewood. That came from
Yes, sir.
Taylor Alderdice. The people from
Yes,
Taylor
sir.
Alderdice. I mean,
Yes, sir.
Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah.
We were talking
Curtis
about
Martin.
Huh?
Curtis Martin.
Curtis Martin. How about Myron Cope?
Yep, Mark, exactly.
Billy-
Off in the dice.
Billy Porter.
Billy Porter. That's right.
You may have one of the most diverse high school graduations. I don't. That's unbelievable out of Pittsburgh from Taylor Alderdice.
And it's crazy because I lived down the street from Homewood, the Homewood High School. My brother and my sisters went to Homewood. I thought I was going to go to Homewood and play ball with my friends. I was hyped about it when I was going to high school. I got a letter from the government saying, nope, you were selected to go to Taylor Alderdice, which is like 2 buses away from where you live. And it was all Jewish people. And I was like, what? How did this happen? Right? So,
I want to go back to Homewood.
I wanted to go back to Homewood. And then, but then I started driving to Squirrel Hills every day, and I see those big, beautiful houses. I was like, hey, this ain't bad, man.
You know what? You know what you said? I'm going to have one of them one day.
That's exactly what I said. And it inspired me. That's right.
It did. I think, and look at everybody else, probably said the same thing, which goes back to like a Pittsburgh element is like, you experience it all. You see it all.
Do.
I don't know if you experience it all, but I saw what the Hill District was about. I sat there and remember, up in the Hill District, it was Chicken on the Hill with Will, when Willie Stargell used to hit a home run.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Chicken on the Hill with Will.
Chicken on the Hill with Will.
I mean, Willie Stargell hit a home. Every time he'd come up, he'd swing that back. He'd get like that. A home run. I remember telling my dad, I go, Dad, so if we go up the hill, do we get free chicken if we go up there too? Son, we're not going there. We're not going up there. I go,
Not going up on the hill. It was rough up there, man.
Hey, what? But you know what, though? I hear you now. You go back to the same things. You're going back to your roots. It made you who you are tonight because you're right. It's not about me.
Not about me. I say it to myself all the time. I catch myself and I'm like, Antoine, it's not about you.
So you are now, you just changed your company's name to Hill District Media.
Yeah, yes, sir, Coach.
And so
Remind myself.
I'm proud of you. So does that mean you're coming back to do another documentary, a story about something in Pittsburgh? Hey, there's a good 2005 team. There's a good story there.
Well, Coach, I'm coming back to do a whole story on the Steelers.
You
with
are?
the Roonies.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm going to be talking to you, hopefully, God willing.
We will. Hey,
I'm going to go deep, man. Listen, I'm black and yellow all day.
So
I come back, and it's an important story for me. The Steelers, that's the real American team.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says.
No.
That team is the real American team, right? The Roonies are amazing people. They do so much good for everyone. They're the most loyal people I've ever seen in my life. Whether Pittsburgh's having a good season or bad season, it's always consistent. People work hard, they play hard. You know, I love the Steelers. It's I think it helped build Pittsburgh what it is today, and it is the American story.
You know, I sit there and I talk all the time. I go to Canton for the Hall of Fame, and I see Joe Green. We have Donnie Shell there. We have John Stallworth, Lynn Swann. Mel Blount is still back there doing his thing. And so we all sit together. Jerome Bettis is sitting there with me. And I'm like, you know, and you think about the very fiber, what that's about and what it stands for is like, it was a blue collar town. I grew up 3 miles from there in Crafton. You know, I had a paper route, and I used I worked in a steel mill when I was coming back from NC State. So I said, to be able to go back there and coach and growing up there, I said, when I got the job, I was 34 years old. Antoine, I made this statement. I said, if I don't screw this up, I can go back to my 20th high school class reunion as a head coach of my hometown team. So my first job was don't get fired. So that was my first goal. But
don't get fired.
Don't get fired. So I was able to go back.
Hit those lights over there for me. I'll show you something, Coach. I don't know if you'll be able to see it though, because I don't know which cameras you're using. You see that up? Can you see that up there? You see that?
No, what is it?
You see that? You see that helmet? Lynn Swann helmet.
Oh.
Signed by Lynn Swann.
Hey, well, I'm giving you a helmet that can be signed by me. I'm gonna make sure it's up there.
That'd be an honor.
And I'm going to give you my book too, because I think you will and you enjoy, because it's about growing up there, and it's never forgetting where you come from.
Yes, sir.
You know, and man, you're just getting to know you. I am so thank you for doing this. And
Coach, it's an honor, man. It's an honor. The only reason it took so long is I was in the middle of finishing the Michael Jackson movie, and I don't want to rush it. And you were really important to me. It's an honor, honestly. Like the way you coach the teams, the way you carry yourself, I could see how these young guys learned from you and became men.
Yeah.
Like I learned from you. I literally tell people all the time, I'm like a coach.
Yeah, you are.
And you're one of the coaches that I imagine that when I'm talking to young people, what you might say to them, how you might inspire them. You know, I'm a big fan, and I love everything you've done.
That's a real honor, and it really means a lot to me for you to say that. And on that same breath, what would you tell the young people today that want to chase a career in arts and filmmaking and that element? What advice would you give them today?
Well, I would tell them, embrace failure. But be brave. Be brave enough to continue on, but embrace failure and make that part of the house you're building. And don't be afraid. Because, you know, leaving Pittsburgh to go to Hollywood, as you know, it's like night and day.
Yeah. Totally.
And you got to be brave. And you got to, you know, it's not going to be easy, but who wants it easy anyway? Right. You know, I guess that's the Pittsburgh in me, though.
No, it is. I said anything worthwhile shouldn't be easy, and I think you almost. So it's so funny because I said there was that team we had that won a championship. We lost 3 straight games, and I just said at that point, the depth of despair can make you reach the heights of hope.
That's it.
You know, and that was like when you got down so bad. Now it's like look in the mirror. Don't point your finger, just look in the mirror. And I just said to every one of you, just do a little bit more. I'm gonna look in the mirror, I can just do a little bit more. You know, if we all just take care of ourselves and learn to trust that the guy next to you is gonna be, he's all in. And just trust, I'm gonna hold people accountable. Just gotta trust that fact. You take care of you. I'll make sure as I sit there and oversee this, I'm gonna ask you to do some things, some sacrifices you're willing to make. But if we can all learn to trust one another and do that, we can accomplish something very special. And we're not going to look too far ahead. We're not going to ponder how we got here. We're not going to speculate what we can do. We're going to stay in the now. And it's going to be one game at a time, one scene at a time, right? And when it's all said, when it's all done, hey, that was a pretty good movie. That was a pretty good season.
That's what it's about. That's what it's all about.
Right.
And then on to the next.
Yeah, that's it. And another year, another cast of characters.
Yeah, that's right.
It may be different.
Another story.
Another story. Every year's different. Every movie's different. Be able to adapt and adjust. Stay flexible in your thinking.
Enjoy the journey.
Embrace the journey.
Embrace the journey, man. Coach, from Pittsburgh to here, it's a journey.
Thank you. So I just got done talking to Antoine Fuqua. Showed him this picture, made a reference to myself in this corner, and that was him, the making of some pretty successful films. How it was a collection of, for me, players and coaches, for him, actors and crew, and how our job and his leadership, where he talks about humility, he talks about it not being about him, but yet he's also being in position to put people in their best positions. And the one word that I love that he used, and I used, was trust. Learn to trust the person next to you. Learn to trust your instincts. That's what makes him a special director. That's what made this team a special team. Yep, another guy from Pittsburgh, doing it his way, very, very successfully. Thank you, Antoine. Antoine, hey, thank you for doing this. I gotta be honest with you, I said what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks is watching film of football games, NFL games. Music videos and movies are yours. So I'm like, okay.
All right, you go.
Not like you hold me, oh baby. Love never felt so fine. Paradise ever mine. Not like you hold me, and the night is gonna be just fine. Gotta fly, gotta see, gotta be. I can't take it 'cause baby, every time I love you, and I'm alive, and I'm baby. Tell me if you really love me, and I'm alive, and I'm baby. So baby, 'cause love never felt so good. Oh, we never felt so good. So no, it never felt so good. Never felt so good.